The Red River Farm Network is excited to be celebrating women's role in agriculture. Agricult-HER is a program that is made possible by the Minnesota Soybean Research and Promotion Council, among other sponsors. And today we are excited to have our guest, North Dakota FSA Executive Director Marcy Svenningsen, is joining us. And first of all, just tell us your agriculture background. What are how were you raised in agriculture or not, or introduced to this industry?
Well, I was so fortunate to grow up on a family farm with all the things that entails, pale calves and driving truck and hauling square bales and that whole experience of growing up on a farm. And some people look at that experience and go, boy, I don't want anything more to do with that. I can't wait to get off the farm. In my life, I loved it, and I knew that that's where I always wanted to be. So I was really fortunate to grow up on that family farm. And then I got involved in FFA in high school. And you know what? What a great program FFA is. Taught me so much, taught you, it teaches you that lifelong skill of parliamentary procedure, something that you will use the whole entire rest of your life. Besides all the other things that it's great at teaching. But I was a star green hand and I was a chapter president, and I really do believe in the creed for FFA. I believe in the future of farming with a faith born not of words but of deeds, and that deed part is really important to me. You can talk the talk, but you have to be able to get out and actually walk the walk and see what you can do.
And now, as North Dakota FSA Executive Director, you get to do just that. And you also have work and have an operation your family does still.
Oh, absolutely. I married a family farmer, which, as I noted, I really wanted to stay on the farm, so that wasn't surprising. But my husband and I farm and ranch about 10 miles west of Valley City, and we got married in 1980. We have two children. My daughter is married to a rancher and a bank president down in Hettinger, North Dakota, and we have three grandchildren there. And my son is married, and we have two grandchildren, and they live fairly close to the farm. They're actually going to be building a house right near the farm this coming summer. And we each have our own land, we each have our own cattle, but we work them all together and take advantage of that shared workload. And so it works out really well. We're really blessed. It's nice to know when you have a farm, and my mom and dad farm, Greg's mom and dad farm, or did farm. They've retired. Mine are still going. But it's nice to know it's going to be handed down. And that really gives us comfort to know that that next generation is there and ready to pick up the reins too.
So talk about why you chose the career that you have as well. In addition to farming, you also are very involved professionally on a FSA level, of course. Tell us a little bit about why that was where you were called to.
You know, all I ever really wanted to do was be on the farm. And I mentioned that we got married in 1980. And for those of you that are familiar with the 80s, it wasn't very long before we were paying 18% interest on our inputs and on our used line of machinery. And the writing was on the wall. We weren't going to be able to farm unless I had off farm income. So I had gone to college and got a accounting degree because I felt that would help me keep the books on the farm. And fortunately for me, I was able to go to work at Open Door Center in Valley City, and I was a secretary for a couple of years, but then eventually took over as the business manager and was a business manager for 30 plus years. And you know, it wasn't necessarily where I wanted to be all the time because my heart is in farming, but it allowed us to stay farming. And so that was a good thing. But at the same time that I was doing that job, I was also still involved in ag advocacy. I served on the Barnes County Farmers Union Board. I served for 12 years on the North Dakota Farmers Union State Board. I also was involved with Cass County Rural Electric Cooperative and served there for 10 years. So I had that ability, even while working full time and helping on the farm nights and weekends, to be an advocate for agriculture. And that really was important to me. And I think probably set me up for being able to do the job that I'm doing right now.
All right. So, what does a typical day look like for you, either on your operation or in your job?
Oh gosh. Let's see. Typical day. Because I usually drive to Fargo, I'm up about 5 a.m. in the morning, and we just started calving. So we've got 3 calves on the ground, found a dead one this morning. And so, first thing you grab, my son is very into technology. So we've got cameras set up all over the barns. And that all sounds good. We still didn't catch the one that was born with a sack on its face last night. And so found that one this morning. That's always disappointing. But that's that first initial get up in the morning and going. And then when I get to work, and it's about an hour drive, one direction from our farm, 70 miles, I spend a lot of time thinking about what am I going to do today? What are the things that are on the calendar? And there's always things that come up besides that. And so I'm kind of prepped before I ever get here. And you know what? It's surprising how many different things, challenges, opportunities that come in the door every single day. It's a lot of it's staffing. I'll be honest. There are about 300 staff across the state for the Farm Service Agency. And while I'm not their direct supervisor, I do get involved in when we have vacancies and trying to make sure that the process doesn't get clogged down. When you work with government, it's not as smooth sailing as when you're in the private industry. It takes a long time to get advertisements out and to get people on board and background checks. And so I do spend a lot of time looking at those things, advocating for our staff, advocating for higher wages so that we can attract quality employees. Those are all some things. And I look at that in the light of how that helps producers, which is still ultimately the goal, is to help producers, advocate for agriculture. And by making sure we have our county offices staffed with good quality staff, that just helps producers. So those are a lot of the things that I deal with. A lot of different national phone calls I participate in on a weekly basis. Working with my fellow SEDs across the country is always interesting. They have their own individual challenges. I think of Texas right now and the wildfires that are going on in Texas and Oklahoma. There's going to be a lot of extra work with the ECP program there, and they'll need a lot of extra help down there. We may, there's times that we put together jump teams that might help in that area. So those are things that can come up on a daily basis.
So you already mentioned FFA and Farmers Union, your involvement in those organizations. Why is being involved in those either farm organizations or community organizations important to what you do and you as a person, as a woman in agriculture?
When I got the first phone call, and I just want to say how lucky I have been in people encouraging me to do things. I got a phone call one night saying, have you ever thought about serving on the Barnes County Farmers Union Board? And at the time, I didn't know what Farmers Union was. I thought I was being asked to serve on the local co-op oil company board. And so when I agreed to do that, I was surprised to find out it was this educational organization. And I got the policy book from North Dakota Farmers Union in the mail as a new county board member. And I'll be honest with you, Whitney, I was amazed at how a farm organization could put together policy that seemed like it was perfect for my husband and I. Had all the little boxes checked off that we really felt strongly about. And so it was like a hand going into a glove with Farmers Union. I love the policy side of it. I served on the policy committee for 2 years on the state level, and then was asked to serve on the national level for the policy committee for 2 different times. And if you want to have your eyes open to agriculture all across the country, that national policy committee was really eye-opening. I dealt with an apple grower out of the state of Washington and dairy in Minnesota, and there were 12 or 14 people on that policy committee from all over. It is amazing to me how we even write a farm bill that covers all the aspects of agriculture that we have in this country. And the national policy tries to put together, something that everyone can get behind for the National Farmers Union. And I just think what a great job they do with a ground up organization where they really listen to what members want. And so I've always that's been really important to me. Cass County Rural Electric, when I finally decided to step down from the state board, I had heard other members talk about, even on my fellow board members, talk about serving on their local rural electric cooperative board. And I thought, gosh, that sounds really interesting. That sounds like something that I would really enjoy doing. And so I got off the state board in the fall of 2011, and I ran for the Cass County Electric open position in 2012. And because it was brand new at large, there were 9 people running for that position. Unheard of, really. And that the night of the annual meeting, one person dropped out. So there were 8 people running, 7 men and me. I was frankly really surprised when I came out on top. And what a great organization to be a part of. And because you sit on the Cass County Rural Electric Board, my fellow directors voted me to serve on the Square View Power Board. And then at later time, I ended up serving on the Minn Kota Power Board. And you really, the learning opportunity, and I just encourage people, if you've never served on a board, you should really consider it, because you don't have to be an expert going in. You learn a lot along the way.
You said something that was interesting to me, and I can relate to a couple different things in my life. Showing up and being the only female at the table and in the meeting. I feel like that in agriculture that happens more often than we really, at least that I even think about. It's usually when I look back and I'm like, yeah, I think there were only like 3 or 4 women at that crop meeting or whatever the case might have been. And that's awesome to hear that, others are still showing up and also have, paved the way for that to maybe be a change sometime.
Yeah, I agree. And you still things happen. It was kind of funny here the other day. I got a phone call into my office not too long ago. And this producer sounded like an older gentleman. He said, I need to talk to who's ever in charge of FSA. And I said, well, I'm not in charge of the overall FSA program. That's Zach Ducheneau, but I'm in charge of North Dakota Farmers Union, FSA. Nope, can't be. You're a woman. And I admit it. I busted out laughing, and we got past it, and we had a good conversation afterwards. But yeah, it just was so funny to hear him even say it, that I thought, wow.
So having the courage to walk into some of those situations, I'm sure is something that maybe you realize you've got it, or if you don't, you do. But who have been those that have inspired you to go for things, and who are your role models in agriculture in your professional life?
Oh gosh, Heidi Heidkamp, I think, has really been one of those role models for me. Somebody who is always plain talking, get the job done. in my personal life, my parents have been huge. My dad always said you can do whatever you want to do, and that includes farming. So it never even dawned on me that I wouldn't ever be a farmer, because he always said that's something you can do. And my mom has always encouraged me when it came to this job. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't looking for this job when the administration changed. I'm in an appointed position. It never even dawned on me to think, gosh, maybe you should try applying to become the state executive director. Never dawned on me. I got 2 or 3 phone calls from people encouraging me to do this. And when I talked to my family about it, my mom was the first one to say, absolutely, you have to do that. You're going to regret it if you don't do that. And so that kind of encouragement helps. And my family was very supportive as well, because frankly, I was working part-time, able to help a lot on the farm, running the grain cart full-time, and to go back to a full-time job plus the extra driving, that was a hard decision to make, I have to admit. But the encouragement really helps. So, and I have a lot of people that I look up to in agriculture. So I look at the former presidents from North Dakota Farmers Union, Alan Bergman and Robert Carlson, both, really idealistic people that think outside the box and really helped raise North Dakota Farmers Union to where they are today. So, I mean, some of those folks really have an impact on you that you should go ahead and and they were supportive too.
All right. So, what advice would you give to other women in agriculture that are presented with opportunities? If they're maybe a little bit nervous about it or hesitant, how would you encourage them, or what tidbits should they go forth with?
Oh my gosh, just do it. If you're at all interested in something, for instance, you get your electric bill every single month and you pay it, and maybe you're thinking to yourself, I wonder how they come up with those rates, and I wonder why they don't do this and for heaven's sakes, look into running for the board. So many times I think women, they think that they need to know everything before they start down that path of serving or running for a board. And you don't. You just have to have an interest in it. You have to have a passion for it. And if you have that, everything else you will learn along the way. The men that are running for these boards don't know any more than the women, and they have to learn too. And so I just think sometimes we handicap ourselves by telling ourselves that, well, I don't know enough about that in order to run. And don't let that happen. We are in a point in this country and in these rural communities, especially, where we are looking for people to step up and serve on boards and to, be involved in communities. And I highly would encourage anyone that's even thinking along those lines. And it does come down to, I'm serious about this. If you're complaining about something, that's where you need to go, and you need to put your energy into fixing it. And if that means running for the school board or it means running for the church council, don't complain about it if you're not willing to step forward and do something about it.
I love that. Talk about some memorable experiences that were maybe turning points for you in your career, for your farming operations. What are some things that really stick out to you that either helped develop you as a person or helped you make decisions along the way in life?
Sometimes I guess I would recommend, if you don't feel comfortable in an area, go out and get some more education. I always felt fairly comfortable in front of people. That didn't scare me like it does a lot of people. But I did join Toastmasters, which is an organization that's designed to help people feel more comfortable public speaking. And I was a part of that organization in Valley City for 10 years. And it does give you some confidence, and it does help you as you prepare for table topics or giving speeches. There are places and organizations that will help you feel like you are in more control of the things that maybe bother you. I would recommend people doing things like that. It was important for me. I also think there are times that you shouldn't, maybe you decide to run for something and you don't win. I've had that happen. I ran for the vice president for North Dakota Farmers Union. I didn't win. You can learn a lot by not winning too. And I also ran for the Barnes County Commission, and I lost by 30 votes. And, I put a lot of time and energy into that. And so, yeah, are you disappointed when you don't win? Yeah, you are. But you also learn something from that too. And I'm a kind of a firm believer that, when you put yourself out there like that, people see you, and sometimes doors close, but then windows open. And I really believe God does open windows. If I'd have been serving on the Barnes County Commission, I would have had to step down, number one, to accept this job, because I had to step down off my 2 electric cooperative boards that I was on that I dearly loved. But you can't even have any kind of a conflict of interest in this position. So, sometimes things happen for a reason. We ended up at one point in our farming career where, it was obvious, because of interest rates and where we were at, that we needed to go to USDA at one point and take a loan out through them. It ended up to be a good thing. We reduced our interest rate. We really learned how to dig into the numbers on our farm and how to fill out all that paperwork. Ended up to be a good thing. And at the time, it felt like that we had somehow failed, because, gosh, we can't, we have to go to, at that time it was, I don't remember, Farmers Home Administration, I think it was still called. And it felt like a failure, but it really ended up to be a good thing. So sometimes those things, those low points in our lives, really can springboard us into other stuff.
All right. Well, any final thoughts before we let you go? Just on your experience in agriculture in your life.
Well, I just have been blessed. I really have. I've had such great opportunities to serve with a lot of really wonderful people on these boards. Um, and it's great to be able to look back and see, did you have an impact? I hope so. I hope that being an advocate for agriculture has had an impact. And if it helps other women decide that, well, gosh, if she can do it, I can do it too, that's an even better plus yet. I hope that would have that kind of an impact. It's fun. I will be honest with you. My granddaughter's in FFA in Hettinger, and I just watched a video of her talking in front of the whole school as they were talking about FFA week. And I went, yeah, that's cool. So things like that are important.
Very exciting. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today and tell a little bit of your story. It's been a pleasure hearing your history with agriculture and your passion for it. Again, Marcy Svenningsen joining us as the Red River Farm Network celebrates women in agriculture throughout the month of March.